Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Welcome everyone. This is our Friday Night Live. We made it through the week.
Another wonderful week in the land of marriage.
All right, so what are we talking about on this Friday Night Live?
We're talking about building more intimacy.
All right, in our marriage, all right, or in our relationships, or with each other.
We're building more intimacy. And I'm going to leave it at that. Right after this when we come back. Like I said, we're talking about building more intimacy in relationships, in marriage. I'm going to say marriage. We ain't going to talk about relationships.
All right.
All right, okay. All right, so we have our relationship coaches. We have Tony and Alisa DiLorenzo. I hope I didn't jack that up. I think I said that the first time,
it's
too.
DiLorenzo, but go ahead.
All right, we're going to roll with it.
So
close enough, Jason.
Wait, so is it DiLorenzo or DiLorenzo?
Oh.
DiLorenzo.
Okay, so you were right. I was wrong.
Okay, cool.
All right, so he was right.
I get a tally point for that one.
And it's recorded.
So if you ever need it, you were right.
All right. So how are you guys this Friday?
Oh,
Excellent.
amazing.
We're doing fantastic.
Great. So just for the audience, Tony wasn't able to make it with us for the podcast. So the podcast came out Wednesday, and it was how to get, keep intimacy in your marriage, to build more intimacy. All right. But Tony's here with us tonight because he said his side of the story did not get told.
Right.
So he's here to set the record straight. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, we've been married for 25 years. We have 2 children, a 19-year-old son who's a freshman in college and a 16-year-old daughter. And we have been just rocking this marriage world now for over 12 years with the One Extraordinary Marriage Show.
Yeah.
All right. So when you say One Extraordinary Marriage Show, tell us what exactly that is.
So in 2010, Alisa and I started this journey of we are going to share open, honestly, and transparently about marriage. Felt like at that point in time, there just wasn't a lot out there. I mean, this is 2010, way before podcast was even part of anybody's lexicon. But we just realized that there wasn't anything out there for us as 30-somethings, younger kids, that just got really into the nitty-gritty of what marriage was doing. Like what happened from the highs to the lows and everything in between. So we got behind our microphones on 1 January in 2010 and started sharing. And we haven't stopped. We have almost 700 episodes at this point in time, and we're not stopping anytime soon.
Wow, fantastic. Woo, kudos.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So on the podcast, we talked about, so let's go into the first point, and we talked about the 60-day challenge, correct?
Yes.
Yep, the 60-day challenge.
You started right from the start. Let's go.
All right, the 60-day sex challenge. All right, so tell us really quick but in-depth, what was the 60-day challenge and why did you do it?
Well, at that point in time, our marriage wasn't in a good spot. And we really had 3 places to go with it. It was either A, stick around until the kids turn 18, get a divorce in, get a divorce now, and just let's call it quits and we'll co-parent in some way, shape, or form, or get radical. And so Elise and I decided to get radical. I asked her to do the 60-day sex challenge and got a really hard no. Very hard no.
Hard, no pun intended.
No pun intended.
That's not that kind of no.
Yeah. I was thinking at least that night I would have sex with her, and instead she came back out with a green face mask, and that didn't happen. But she said yes the next day. And over the course of 60 days, we did complete 40 days of sexual intercourse.
So what made you why did you think that would help you?
Right.
Men, and I say that because men always resort to sex. No offense.
Because it works.
And it worked, right?
Simple,
But
right?
So, if things aren't going right and you say, let's have sex,
For
She's like,
60
what?
days.
And that's your answer to our problems? Let's have sex? So what would, what made you think that this would actually work?
Well, it's that third option. Let's get radical. And I figured, you know what? What's more radical than doing something that we've never attempted before? After years of being rejected and even dealing with my own like pornography addiction and having to rewire my mind and my brain to see Alisa as the most beautiful woman in my life, I was at that place of like, what's more radical? And yes, the sex was the first part of it, the impetus of going, but gosh, what we learned throughout and how we connected was what made it so magical and just so amazing.
So in the end, it wasn't really about the sex. It's about building your relationship even better than what it was before.
Right. And what I would say is to all those guys that are sitting there listening to Tony and being like, that's it. That's the answer.
They're sitting there going, yes, yes.
They are.
And we know every time we talk, Tony says that and talks about how he threw out that idea. There are guys literally across America that are high-fiving Tony, just like, you are my hero.
I would say it's the spouse who desires sex more.
True,
often
because it's not
than
always
other.
the man.
Because we do have a lot of wives who completely understand where I was at that point in time as well.
But what I would say is that, you can hear that it's a 60-day sex challenge, but like if you're the spouse that's desiring this, you better be ready to up your emotional game and your romance game, because the only way you're having sex that much is if you are actually connecting with your spouse on a lot of different levels, because it's very hard, and that is pun intended, to keep
it up. For 60
I didn't see that one coming. All right. Good one, Alisa. All right.
It's true.
Why not? Is that
we
fun?
really found that, yes, it was about so much more than sex, but it was because Tony was willing to really connect emotionally. Like, we were having conversations.
Well, and it was in your willingness too to open up sexually and going, okay, like, I'm willing to give here. You're willing to give here. And for the first time, I think in our 11 years of marriage at that point in time, it was not the first time, but it was probably
the most consistent
time where we were like, we're on the same team. Like we both want to do this and we want to experience something and we're willing to step into it together.
Yeah.
So Alisa, what made you say yes? So, because I know our initial idea is what? Just thinking, like, initially, right? If we're having issues, that's your reaction. So,
yeah, the initial response is heck no. I'm not even questioning it at that point in time. I'm just like, this is not happening. I mean, that, like, do you want to know where I was? That's where I was.
It was. It was a no very quick.
It was. I'm just like, you're crazy. And just keep in mind, we had a 2 and a 5-year-old at the point in time, and I was just like, I do not have the energy or the stamina to do this. And I didn't have the desire either. But really, the change for me came the next day, literally standing with a basket full of laundry that I needed to fold in my garage. And I call it my come to Jesus moment. I tell people all the time, like, I literally heard this voice say, if you aren't willing to try, if you aren't, Tony's not asking you to like chop off a limb or give up a kid. He just wants you to make him a priority for 60 days. And is that really so much to ask? And the second part of that voice was, if you're not willing to try, then it's very likely that your marriage is over. And that's a really confronting thought when, you are thinking about that 2 and 5-year-old and you're like, wow, okay, have I ever actually made him my priority outside of like the dating newlywed phase? And the answer to that at that point in time was no. So that was the abrupt think that through before you say no. And then I said yes.
And so tell us, because as you said, it's not about the sex. So take us through those 60 days, right? Like real quick, but take us like the emotion.
Where you started and kind of like where you ended.
Yeah, and in the middle.
Because emotionally you guys weren't on the same page, but by the end of it, you were on the same page, or you were moving to being on the same page.
Yeah, we're definitely not where we are today, obviously. I mean, that was 14 years ago now. The beginning, I think you have this heightened sense of excitement. And
it's like the honeymoon again.
Like,
yes,
wow, this is so amazing and this is so great. But then there are those moments where it gets really tough and you're tired and you're working, you're dealing with kids and you can't get them to sleep and you haven't been able to have sex yet. And so what I found to be interesting in that middle section was we were willing to come up with new ideas. strategize together, like how are we going to connect with one another so that we're both in the moment, so we're not just doing a bunch of quickies, just boom 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 and just getting it over with. Like we really wanted to have some time together, so we had to get crafty, we had to get
well, and I think a lot of it wasn't just like getting creative when it came to the sex. It was like, what were the things that we were talking about again? You know, like I remember laughing with Tony again, and I still, the memory is so vivid that it was the first time in a long time that I remember thinking in my head, I still like him. Like we're having these conversations, and we're talking about money, or we're praying together, or we're going on a date, and it's actually fun to go on a date. And I remember thinking, I still really like. It's not just like I love him and I'm saying it. It's like I like being with him. And it's because it wasn't. I mean, the sex was a great catalyst, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good orgasm, but it was how are we connecting? And how do we hold on to that? Because we had lost it for so many years. Yeah. And that's really where the shift happened of going, we're so disconnected, to 60 days later feeling more connected than we'd probably ever had at any point in time to that point.
Yeah. And I know probably the 60 days you had no idea going into it what you would come out of it, but absolutely, it was a great thing to try. All right, and then the next thing I know on Wednesday, so it was Wednesday's episode. What was the number, Jason?
It was number 90, babes.
All right. Episode number 90, building more intimacy. And I know we went into more depth with the 60-day challenge and everything. So what was our second point that we talked about?
Our next point was prioritizing your marriage, making it a priority. And this is kind of where you had to come to Jesus moment when you're like, well, if you're not going to make it a priority, then we got a real problem here. So you made the decision.
How do you want a better marriage without actually putting forth any effort or anything? So tell us how, not just that, but how that was a catalyst into prioritizing each other and then continuing that, because the key to it is not just starting it, but understanding that that's a continuous thing in a relationship.
Yeah. So a couple things that started coming out of this. One thing is we realized in marriage, you need to be intentional and you got to take action. We had really let both of those go to the wayside.
Absolutely.
There was no intentionality ever. It was just sort of like, well, the wind's blowing west today. All right, we're going to go west.
I agree, right? We have to be intentional.
You know what I mean? It was just, we're going wherever, and we had no intentionality about our marriage or even taking action in it. And this really sort of sparked that for us.
Okay.
So that I would say it really allowed us to start prioritizing. When it came around like our sexual intimacy, we started scheduling sex.
Okay.
And at this time, many of people, like now it's highly talked about, but back when we started 12, 13 years ago now, I mean, people are like, are you kidding? Like that is so not marriage and you shouldn't be doing that. And
I actually had a coaching client tell me that today. It's like, talking about the last decade plus of my life.
Yeah. And so we just started scheduling things, and to make your marriage a priority means that we need to be on each other's calendars. We need to put it on there. And I am a proponent of it now, having done it for so many years. And I'm not saying we're strict about it, but we definitely have coffee break times on our calendar. We definitely make sure we're putting dates on the calendar. And dates to us, it could be morning, noon, dinner. I mean, a date's a date, however you guys want to make it.
Right, whatever it means to you.
Prioritizing those areas so that way we get our time and continue to strengthen each other.
Well, I think the thing is, and as Tony was talking, we've been thinking about the fact that, you know, our ability to be here with you today happened because it was so important. It showed up on our calendar. I got the reminder, hey, don't forget, show up, be there early. And that's because you guys are important, right? And it was important that we were here together. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we accept it for all of the other important things in our life. We do it for doctor's appointments and business meetings and kids' schedules. But there's this idea that when it comes to the two of us, it should just happen spontaneously. Right. And so getting into this place of saying, wait a minute, if we truly believe what we say, that this is the most important relationship, then putting each other on the calendar isn't an insult or isn't a slam. It's actually an encouragement to what we're creating.
Yeah.
And I think with our show and with your show, what we're doing is we're trying to recreate what's the norm, right?
Yep.
Because marriage has such a bad rap. And the thing is not is that what happens that way, not because we wanted to, but because we didn't know. And we can't prevent something we don't know. But now that we're getting that information out, hopefully marriages can turn around and we won't get a bad rap. So married couples are having sex, married couples are enjoying each other, we're having dates, right? So we can continue to have that type of marriage. It's just that where are you looking? Am I intentional? Are you putting me first? Am I a priority? So how do you get those couples that don't understand that, right? They have really, really tight schedules. And as you said, work comes first. That's their priority because that's the way they survive, right? So how do we get those couples or those people in relationships to say, wait a minute, you know what, let me rethink this whole prioritization?
Well, chances are really good that if that's their priority all the time, they're probably hearing something from their spouse like, we're not working, we have problems, I'm not happy, I want to leave.
You don't have time for me.
You don't have to, like, if you hear that, those are the, the billboard slapping you in the face,
right?
Yes.
Red flashing light, that, like, whatever the alarm system is, that is your alarm system. And the truth of the matter is that you can be really busy doing all of those other good things, and they're good things. Like, I won't dispute that. But if you don't make time for your relationship, you don't have all the time in the world.
And I would say having a full calendar at times may not be the best thing, because I remember looking back at my calendar, and the reason it was full because I didn't want to engage with Alisa. So the more I keep my calendar, the better I was in not having to deal with the stuff that we were really going through. So I would tell most people to really look at your calendar and go, is this really like a 1, 2, 3? And going, the ones need to stay on, the twos maybe or so. I could go either way. And a 3, we got to get it off there, because you're going to have to make time. And there may be a season in your life where you're just got to wipe some things away so you can make this the priority.
It's a choice.
And it's tough. And yet, Alisa and I have walked that road many a times, many a different times over the last, 14 years of getting full calendars and then having to wipe them clean again, so that way we could connect. And
so you can show up and be present in each other's life, because we'll hide behind being busy and not having time for one another.
Deal with the issues,
right?
And the whole point of getting this out there and bringing awareness to it is that we're trying to help marriages. We're trying to save them. So if you really want a better marriage, we have to start looking at ourselves and be intentional and say, what part am I playing? Right. What am I doing that is contributing either to hurting my marriage or helping my marriage? Right. All right. So what was the next point we talked about?
Before that, I just want to give a shout out to Lanice Lightning. Hey, family. Hey, how are you?
Lanice, thanks for viewing.
Yeah, just view. If you got a question or something you want to throw something in there, just let me know. Just go ahead and put it in the comments. And
so if anyone has a question for them or about anything, right?
Yeah. Especially that 60-day challenge. I had a lot of questions, but you guys got to listen to the podcast, because Elise, she answered a lot of it. I was like, oh, okay, because I had a problem with the whole scheduling thing, because I like, spontaneity, right? So I might be like, I'm in the mood right now.
I like sleep.
Right. I'm like, can you hold off on the sleep, baby?
I'm like really, really, really tired, but we understand all of it. Let's see. We have another.
Gail Kilo. Hey, what's happening?
Good evening.
How you doing?
Says good evening, Gail.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, and who was that?
This would be Rita S. Hey, Rita, how are
right,
you? We appreciate you. Thank you for checking in.
Yes. All right, so let's go to our third point that we covered.
And this is where the rubber meets the road. The 6 pillars of intimacy.
All right, so lead us into that. How we came up with that, the title, and what exactly it is.
Absolutely, and going all the way back to that 60-day sex challenge. Prior to that, I had heard from Tony over the years, like I want more intimacy in the marriage, right? And there'd been this.
Wow, Tony told you that? Wow.
But here's the problem with that, right? When Tony was talking about that, he was talking about essentially, I want more sex,
right?
Right? And that's a big challenge with the word intimacy, is that it's always been not always, often. Let me not use those words. But
we just did a show called Always and Never Statements.
I can't use always.
Like, oh, wait a minute, I better not use that always thing.
Yep, don't use that.
But sex and intimacy are often equated.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the
Yes.
problem with that is that that's not the only form of intimacy. If we define intimacy as being close and connected, sex isn't the only way that we can be close and connected with our spouse. And I shared this a little bit earlier when we were talking about the 60 days, is that when we jumped into that challenge, what we found is that we were connecting and getting closer in all of these different areas. And so we realized even all the way back then that there was more than one form of intimacy, that sexual intimacy was just one of the strengths that a marriage can have.
Yeah. And so that's where it started. We started, the podcast, and then we started studying our own marriage, started studying other marriages. And we just kept going through this journey and listening and learning, that intimacy word would just continue to come up. And eventually we just said, hey, you know what? There's much more to intimacy than just sex.
Absolutely.
And we had the privilege to speak at our church. And when we actually stood up there and talking about the 6 pillars of intimacy, so many people were just blown away. I remember just walking off the stage with Alisa and our pastors just looking at us going, wow, there are a couple of pillars that we have cracks in. And then when we walked down to the lobby talking, there are so many couples coming up to us and they're like, wow, that made so much more sense now that I can look at my marriage from this holistic view and understand that my spiritual intimacy is strong, and yet my financial intimacy has cracks in it. Right. So we know now that that's where we're gonna step into to strengthen that area. So it's just been truly an honor and a blessing to share this with so many couples, because now it's not just some trying to grab something
right.
Our marriage. I think this is our marriage, or something's going on here. Now they can just go, this is where we're at, and we can dive in.
And understanding, so that's like a whole approach where you're pretty much intimate in all areas, right?
Yeah. Because if your money's right, then your intimacy is right.
Actually, yes.
Not feeling stressed about finances.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's one of the same things. But yeah, you guys got a book. I'm going to go ahead and show that. So you guys have 6 pillars of intimacy.
Tony, we didn't know you were coming tonight, so you're not on there. So let's
put you on there.
Right. So Tony's part of the book too, guys.
That's
right.
Bring
it up one more time.
Yeah, we can.
Surprise, right?
All right, the 6 pillars of intimacy.
Awesome. All right.
But we are so glad to have you, though.
Yes, we are.
Tony wrote the book too. He was a co-author.
Yes, he was.
Really is.
All right, so tell everyone where they can reach you guys, see you guys, or talk about One Extraordinary Marriage.
Yeah, right there, JasonMulder@extraordinarymarriage.com. That's the best place to go. If you're listening to this podcast, on your favorite podcast app, you can look up the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. You're going to find it. But everything we have is right there for you guys. And like we said, we're in partnership with Jason and Tina Marie in fighting for marriages. It's what we believe in, and it's what our purpose and our calling is. And so we're out there. We are going to champion you guys wherever you are, wherever you may be, to see you have the extraordinary marriage you desire.
All right.
That is wonderful.
And so let everyone know what part of the country you guys are at.
We are in San Diego.
Of course you are. Where it's nice, and it's nice. It's nicer than here in the Midwest.
It's nice. So also
32 degrees warmer than you.
Yes.
So we always post books on our website.
Yep.
So that people can be able to our suggestions for helping marriages.
Yep.
So your book is part of our
suggested reading.
Yes.
It's at legendaryrelationship.com/books. And you can go there and get a lot of our selection. These are the books that we suggest. If you want to make your marriage better, this is where you start.
Scroll down, and so those are listening. Your book is a part of our website. So for those people, we are all out there trying to spread the word.
Yes.
And so people may say, well, what should I read? What do I know about? And as you said, when you're first getting into this and trying to understand what we need to do in marriages, I think reading is an essential part, right? So we have to read to understand what it is we need to do. Whether we apply it is something totally different, but let's at least
the knowledge is there, right?
Right. All right. So, Jason, tell them where they can get our podcast.
All right. Our podcast comes out every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcast delivered. Legendary Relationship. I'm sorry. Love and Beyond the I Do is the podcast.
Love and Beyond the I Do podcast right behind us.
Right. Love and Beyond the I Do podcast. Love and Beyond the I Do.com. Thank you very much for that. Yep.
And then So then we can just go to YouTube for Legendary Relationship.
Yeah.
So we are part of the Legendary Relationship that comes on Friday, where we talk about the podcast Loving Beyond the I Do. And that's what we're on tonight. We're on that platform. You can find us on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel, like, share, and let everyone know that we're trying to build and sustain better marriages.
That's right. We try and take them off of cruise control, because, a lot of times our marriages end up on cruise control, and we look up 10, 15 years down the road and we go, how do we get here?
Well, that's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah.
You said you stopped the intention, we stopped the prioritization, we stopped loving each other, and we thought that there was something wrong with us. And my whole point in your story is that you can get to that point and still succeed.
Oh.
So it has to be, both parties have to want it.
Mm-hmm. I got a comment for you here, guys.
Yeah.
Lanice has it. How do you suggest getting my husband to read also?
Well, it's called audiobooks. Don't need to read it.
We've got the book on Audible
There's
for that reason.
Truthfully, we have the book on Audible because so many folks in the one family are just like, when are you going to get it in Audible? When is it going to be in audio? I just don't have time to read. And many people don't. And they find it hard. And even for myself, like when I read, it's usually at the end of the night. And I read a few pages and I'm out. But for a lot of people, hey, just listening while they're going about their day, it's so much easier. They can ingest it. So get it to them in a way, any of the information, get it to him in a way that he can learn from it, because all of us learn differently.
Yeah.
And sometimes, even if you just play it in the house and they hear it, they'll start to listen. Or depending on what the drive is to work and to, back home, you have 30 minutes. That's just 30 minutes. And once you get into it, then you're interested. So, get an Audible account, set it up, put it on there. Sometimes we may even have to do all the work for them and then just push play and say, all right, honey, see when you get home.
Of course you do. Of course you do. But Lanice said, thank you, guys.
You are welcome. All right, so one more time, tell them where they can meet, get you guys, or watch you guys, or find you guys on Instagram, Facebook, your book, your website.
Yeah. OneExtraordinaryMarriage.com. You can find everything there. Just jump on over. OneExtraordinaryMarriage.com. You'll find it all.
All right. Sounds good.
I do like that.
So is there one last point that you would give a couple that is at that point where you were 14 years ago? What advice would you give them?
Start.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your marriage. And I would actually share just what I've been sharing with all my coaching clients lately. Rediscover the curiosity for your spouse. Because if you're going on, Jason, I was thinking about what you were saying about being on cruise control. A lot of times the reason we go on cruise control is because we feel like we know everything and we're just taking it for granted.
Absolutely.
Bring back the curiosity. Find out who they are now. And once you rediscover them, you're going to rediscover your marriage.
All right. How about you, Tony?
What I would say right now, it's what I always say, be intentional and take action. It really is. It just be intentional in this area and then take some action in one way or another that allows you to strengthen your pillars of intimacy, because when you get moving, you get the momentum. And when you get the momentum, you start to feel the success, whatever that may be for you guys. But we've seen it time and time again. People who've just been sitting on the couch, getting up off the couch and going on a date, and what begins to transpire just from that little thing.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yep. And I suggest you guys go out and grab their book. And if you want to save, you want to help your marriage, trust me, it's an excellent book.
Or start, if you want to start. So they said take action. You can find it on our website. Show them with the book. All right. And it's not on there, but it's
right
up.
there.
It's right at the top.
It's right at the top, baby.
Yep. I thought it was
it's suggestive reading, baby. You can't. Yeah.
I'm trying to blame it on the glasses. That's a little distance for me.
Yes.
And I was looking for that purple. I was looking for the purple. So I'm just gonna say, once you get older in age, literally, and you sit in front of a computer screen, it's like everything kind of looks a little funny. So because I'm like, I couldn't even read the comment. I'm like, who is that?
That's funny. That's
and then
funny.
I don't want to sit here with glasses, but okay. All right. So go get their book, start there, check them out on social media, and then
check out their podcast, One Extraordinary Marriage.
Yes. And thank you so much for partnering with us. We truly appreciate it because we are going to save marriages one day at a time, one marriage at a time together. All right, so we are the true poster kids.
Right.
Poster kids.
For how marriage is supposed to be done.
That's right.
That's right.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, so hold on. All right, guys, thank you so much for...
Yes, thank you for being our guest. And as always, we know that marriages are made. They don't just happen.
That's right.
All right.
Till next time, guys.